Hey everybody, welcome back to The Life-Size City. I am, as ever, Michael. In today's little bite-sized segment, I want to take you to Cape Town. Now, I'm sure that we can all agree that apartheid really sucked. And the transformation of South Africa in the post-apartheid era continues. In particular, in the cities. And today, it's going to be about dismantling the horrible legacy of apartheid, as well as a little mix of public transport and architecture. We're going to look at the man whose job it was to redesign the Central Station in downtown Cape Town and get rid of all the apartheid legacies and design it more inclusively for all of the citizens of the city. This guy was a constant source of inspiration. Interviewing him that day in Cape Town was brilliant. After the Central Station, we're going to go out to one of the neighborhoods, informal areas now made formal, and he's going to talk about urban design on this one particular street, Spine Road, and how simple tweaks in the architecture and the urban design have completely transformed an entire neighborhood. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel. I got a whole bunch more coming up. Let's do it. Let's go to Cape Town.
This concourse was only for white people originally, and there's a second concourse at the other end of the platforms, which is designed for the rest of us, including myself. And some of the lines will also service what was predominantly white and more privileged parts of the city. So the way the services were organized is sort of supplemented the spatial organization of the building as well, and that was the control. Essentially petty laws that kind of controlled how people moved. So where you could sit, where you could move through, which bathroom you could use and which you can't. All of that was designed around the separation of races.
This is Cape Town's Central Train Terminal, and here change is very apparent. Built in 1966, it was long considered the most explicit expression of apartheid ideology. Khalid Jacobs, an architect, was part of the team who completely redesigned the station in 2010. And it wasn't only about aesthetics. Their goal was to erase traces of spatial segregation.
The things that we had to get to understand is how to reuse existing infrastructure. We didn't have the resources to simply flatten the station and rebuild an efficient station. To reinterpret this place as a gateway into the city. The space that is organized to separate races was inverted. Right? So these turnstiles then became accessible to everybody. Right. There's an agglomeration of minor changes that made a dramatic impact in terms of how it looks and feels and how one used it.
Khalid and his team added windows. They centralized the ticketing system. They opened up the facade to make a large public space. All of this so commuters would mix, bump into each other, see each other, no matter where they came from, be it the rich and white CBD or the most distant township. The idea was to create a space that was for everyone. Even the vendors, once clogging the main floor, were offered an open-air rooftop market instead of eviction.
What was up here before?
There was a market here before as well. But what we did in 2010 was we consolidated the market into a single market, and we reorganized them with formal structures. We supported with additional services like bathrooms and the like. But we also linked the existing taxi rank to the train station. And that route, the pedestrian connection, is where all this life transpired.
So this is also an A to B corridor as well as, well, that's where you put the shops on an A to B corridor. I mean, that's basic market economy, right? But
absolutely.
Okay, well, that's what creates the dynamic here.
We start to understand that the scale of this building equates to 25 city blocks.
25 city blocks, yeah.
So the scale is enormous, right? So the challenge, of course, is we're sitting with a piece of infrastructure that is necessary to underpin the city.
I like the sign, it says no illegal traders, and it provides some shade to the illegal traders. I find that a nice irony. And the informal is from necessity, of course, right? And then the need for formalization
It's just like, I've always wondered where the balance is. How much of that do you keep?
This is where the contradiction is between the laws and what happens, right? So the laws talks about cleaning, whereas disruption talks about how one engraves one's own identity in the making of your space. That is unlikely to happen with an instant city or with a set of rules. So the richness of the culture and the day-to-day living is able to be expressed in the making of city by people contributing to that making.
Redefining the Central Station's role was a great step for Cape Town. But creating an inclusive city is also about bringing vitality to neglected places. So when Khalid and his team were commissioned to create a bike lane on Spine Road in the township of Khayelitsha, they used the infrastructure budget to kickstart something much bigger, transforming Spine Road into a vibrant street revolving around the needs of its citizens.
So that implies getting all these properties that has the backs facing the street to become the fronts, where the people who live in this community can find space to spend time. So one of the first interventions that we had done, in addition to putting the infrastructure, was to organize some of the informal meat traders to arrange them to organize themselves around it.
Right.
So you can see the energy that is spontaneously being developed. This is a Friday night. They come in to party.
Yeah.
They are dressed to the nines.
Yeah.
And they come to socialize as well in a place.
You created a framework, and the people went, I get that.
And occupy.
And they occupy it.
Occupy. So it's design without using a pen and a paper. So what we see on this side here is people that have started to organize themselves around that space.
And this is more permanent. This is a container converted to, you know, for chips, chicken wings, barbershop.
But the idea is that eventually it becomes a built environment, you know, where you bring living conditions plus trading plus social environments all in the same space. It's about real trade and real life experiences of the man in the street. So this is the very first property that changed its back to its front, removed the fence and opened up his B&B to the street. And he influenced these neighbors that very quickly turned their backs into fronts.
Yeah.
And over time, a few restaurants opened, the corners became activated, so it became a social event. You come a lot on a Friday night.
Every weekend.
Every weekend.
Consistently.
This is the place to be, right?
Yes. This is Spine Road. The road, I tell you. Come on, 1, 2, 3.
Town planning in particular was a tool that's implicated in the apartheid narrative. Now it's a responsibility for urban design and people in the planning professions to begin using the same tools to regenerate a new narrative for how we make cities.